secret. I can hear your plea. I'm now dropping the sorrow of love, dreaming of what I've become. Freedom to be all alone inside you. I sink into desire, bursting into fire in your eyes. You sense all of my longings, waiting for the mornings with your eyes. Sometimes I can hear all of those words you said when no one was watching. Our smiles were touching, hiding from all. So please just surrender to the system. Take me with you till tomorrow. My skin remembers your shadow. I'm unmarked. I
So good evening to all R&Ds on Teams and on live stream, and happy Thanksgiving to all who are celebrating. Welcome to the Sparta Live webinar series, an online program of lively workshops themed around the history, archaeology and legacy of Sparta and Laconia, hosted jointly by the Center for Spartan and Peloponnesian Studies of the University of Nottingham and the city of Sparta, the site of ancient Sparta in Greece. I'm Chrysanthi Galou, Associate Professor of Archaeology and Director of the Center. And tonight I'm joined by Professor Bill Kavanagh, the Center's founder and co-director, and of course, the Mayor of Sparta, Petros Doukas, whom we thank deeply for his collaboration in this project. Today's talk will take us on a journey through the secrets of the seabed of the island of Kythera and the marvels of underwater archaeology. And it will unfold before us the fascinating story of the historical wreck of Mentor, Lord Elgin's brig, which was carrying part of the antiquities and sculptures removed from the Acropolis monuments, and which sank off the small port of Avlemonas on the island of Kythera on September 1802, that is 220 years ago. So without further ado, I'll pass over first to Mayor Doukas for his to welcome everybody, and then to Bill to introduce today's distinguished speaker. Petros, over to you.
First of all, Chrysanthi, thank you, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody. We're very excited to have with us today Dr. Kouroumelis and, of course, Professor Kavanagh to talk about the sinking and the rescue operations, which were very advanced, I assume, for the time, using the latest technology of rescuing of such monuments. Chrysanthi, again, the city of Sparta is grateful to you for what you have been doing. It's a unique series, this Sparta Live series, and unique findings are presented. These are findings that are presented pretty much for the first time to those who are interested in a global audience. So it's developing very rapidly in something that's monumental for ancient Greek civilization and the teachings of these civilization parts for today, because a lot of what we're talking about is very, very relevant today. So again, thank you, and Dr. Kouroumeלי, really exciting what you have to say. It's very, very interesting, and has to do a lot with our efforts to regain the marbles of Parthenon. So it's a very strong link to the whole puzzle. So again, congratulations, and eagerly awaiting to hear you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Doukas. And it's a very great pleasure to introduce Dr. Δημήτρη Κουρκουμέλη-Ροδόσταμου, who was born in Corfu in Greece. He achieved his doctorate from the University of Aix-en-Provence in France, working on trade and transport amphorae from Corfu. And since 1999, he's been working with the effort for underwater antiquities of the Hellenic Ministry of Culture and Sports. And from 2018, he's been in charge of the Northern Greek section of the department. From 2000 to 2011, he taught maritime archaeology for the faculty of the University of Thessaly. And since 1975, he's been participating in excavations in Crete and Corfu, as well as underwater archaeological excavations for the Hellenic Institute of Marine Archaeology at Dokos and Iria, both important prehistoric wrecks. He directed the underwater survey and excavation of the 4th century BC shipwreck at Kythera, under the Hellenic Institute of Marine Archaeology, as well as the survey of the ancient harbour of Kythnos in the Cyclades. As co-director, together with Professor Mazarakis Enyan, and since 2011, he's directed underwater excavation at the historical shipwreck of Mentor at Kythera, which we'll be hearing about today. He's also co-directing the excavation at the ancient harbour of Lecheon in Corinth. He's participated in many archaeological symposia and congresses, published numerous papers on transport amphorae, ancient trade, as well as the results of the excavations. So in 2019, he was official evaluator as expert of the 2001 UNESCO Convention for the Protection of Underwater Cultural Heritage. So, Dr. Kürkümelli, over to you. Thank you very much. Great pleasure to welcome you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Dear Mayor, dear Chrysanthi, first of all, want to thank you, the Center of Spartan and Peloponnesian Studies of the Nottingham University, who invite me once more time after about 10 years to give a lecture about these works that we are doing, especially in Kythera. I'm talking you from Corfu, my homeland, the northern of the Ionian Islands, the island who is related very much with music, history, and culture. And I will take a great pleasure, first of all, to be here at Corfu, and also to talk about the eastern Ionian island, the island of Kythera, and the researches that we have conducted there. So I will share my screen. I hope that everything. So the idea of this conference is not only to talk about the mentor shipwreck, but also to give an image about what the importance of the island of Kythera to the maritime routes in the towards the eastern and the center Mediterranean. So if we are looking from space in southern Greece, the Peloponnesian and Crete, we will see this strange round island of Kythera, lying in fact in the middle of the road between the Cave of Maleas in the south point of Peloponnesus and the northern part of Crete. This small island really is taking a very crucial place in the way to the west and to the east Mediterranean. And that important position, nautical, let's say, and geographical position of Kythera is already mentioned by historians and geographers from the antiquities as Strabo, Pliny, Pseudoscylax, or Pausanias. They mentioned exactly the importance of Kythera in the geographical point of the middle of the Mediterranean. Also, the pilots, the Greek navigation pilots of the Portolanos of Zagora or the Portolanos of the Hellenic Parliament mentioned the position of Kythera, especially as the only more sure passage from the east to the west and from the west to the east. We know very well that the northern part of Kythera, it's not really easily to use for navigation. The distance from Kythera to the land of Peloponnesus, it's very short and very dangerous. So the navigation was held mainly from the south coast of Kythera, between the Kythera and the small island of Antikythera, the so-called the Antikythera Straits, is exactly where all the maps, nautical maps and charts they are mentioning as the only sure passage towards the Western Mediterranean. Of course, this difficult passage was the scene of a lot of maritime accident. Some of them very recent, and some others more ancient. We know, for example, from the 20th century, we have registered at least 25 maritime accidents in the passage of between South Kythera and Northern Antikythera. The strong winds that very often blows at the Aegean Sea affect really the coast of Antikythera, make them very dangerous and very difficult to pass with ships. In fact, the only secure places is at the south coast of Kythera, and there are two, the bays where the ships can anchorage with some security. The one is the St. Nicholas Bay, where still now it's a place that cargo ships anchorage. And the second one is where the capital, the administrative capital of Kythera, Hora, is the Kapsali Bay with the famous Hydra rock in the front of it. At Kythera, of course, when we are talking about Kythera, we are talking also for Cabo Maleas, this very difficult promontory that was really a difficult passage from the antiquity till now. So, as always, mariners, they were using signs, they were using points, they were using geographical information for crossing this difficult passage, exactly as we can find at the south east coast of Kythera. Thinking about all that, in the early 19th, we made a survey around the southeast coast of Kythera, where exactly we have seen what we were expected, all these dispersed remains of maritime accidents, starting from the ancient times with broken amphoras, dispersed amphoras of some shipwrecks, anchor stocks, or even iron Byzantine anchors and recent anchors that they are still give us the idea that the sea is never an easy place to navigate and to live. The more recent information that we have is what my colleague Theotokis Theodoulou have discovered during a research for a wire that they want to pass from Kythera, from the Peloponnese to Crete, a shipwreck, very deep shipwreck, 226 meters, with Corcyrian amphoras of the 4th century BC, lying to the bottom of the sea, somewhere between Kythera and Antikythera. A very interesting wreck where we don't have only amphoras and pithoi, but also smaller ware, as some inochoes and some pinakia and salt cellars. The second, let's say, interesting and excavated shipwreck is a quite important, I must say, shipwreck at the small island of Antidragonera in the eastern coast of Kythera. That shipwreck of the end of the 4th century BC was excavated by the Hellenic Institute of Maritime Archaeology under my direction between the early 90s and 2001. Here you can see the two islands of Antidragonera and Dragonera. The northern, the smaller one, the Antidragonera, is where this shipwreck was lying, in this area. And it was really quite interesting to excavate this shipwreck. because it was carrying 9 stones, huge stones, pyramidal anchors, that the most of them were weighing more than 300 kilos. Under 2 of these anchors, we found quite a lot of objects, including pithoi and smaller ware. And we know now that this shipwreck was probably a ship that was carrying wheat from Sicily, probably to Athens. The second interesting shipwreck is the Mentor. Well, I put a small title at the down of this slide because I didn't want to destroy the Turner's drawing with this wreck. I think that I'm always very fond of Turner's drawing, the marine Turner's drawing, and so I didn't want to just put smaller letters at the end of this drawing. That's the Mentor excavation. So what it was the Mentor? Well, I will talk you more longer. Mentor was a brig that it was owned by Thomas Bruce, the 7th Earl of Elgin, the well-known Lord of Elgin. It was a brig that it was bought by Elgin in the beginning of the 1801 or something like that. We know all the information, the construction information that we have from the Mentor, they're coming from the Register of Lloyds of Shipping. So we have in this small line, we have the name of the Mentor, the type of the ship, that is, it was a brig, that it was sheeted with copper, the name of the captain, England, the tonnage, that it was 114 tons, that it was a single desk and deep waist ship, that it was American construction. And that is really interesting because we are going to see some details in the construction of this ship that give us exactly the idea what means to have an American ship that sank in the Mediterranean. It was constructed by live oak and cedar. Here we have probably the name of the controller. It was armed with 6 to 12 guns. When it was registered, it was 13 years old. He was registered in London, and it was considered as a constant trader. And also, the appreciation of the rigging of the ship was quite satisfactory, mentioned with an A2. So this ship was owned by Lord Elgin, and it was traveling from England towards Gibraltar, Malta, and then he went to Alexandria, Smyrna, Constantinople, and then he arrived to Piraeus, where Lord Elgin gave the order to charge 17 boxes carrying antiquities from monuments from Athens. Here we have the 17 boxes that they were charged in the Mentor. What we know about the crew, we know captain's name, William Eglin. We know that the skipper and the constable was Peter McFarlane. We know that the navigator, the pilot of the ship, was a Greek person called Manolis Malis, probably from the island of Milos, that he belonged to a very known family of navigators. and at least 3 sailors. We are not sure if only the 6 persons were the crew of the Mentor, or there were more of them, but we know at least for sure these 6 persons that they were on the ship. And we have also 3 passengers. We have Lieutenant John Squire, Lieutenant Colonel of the Corps of Royal Engineers. We have William Richard Hamilton, Lord Elgin's secretary, and also Captain William Martin Leake, artillery officer, topographer, and well-known collectioner of antiquities. All these persons were on board at the Mentor, and normally their trip back to London was from Piraeus through Malta, Gibraltar, and then to London. So at the moment that this ship was charged with the 17 boxes of antiquities, and of course with all the other personal objects of the passenger, they left Athens in 15th of September 1802. The same day, they crossed the Strait of Kythera and Antikythera normally, and in the night of the 16th and the morning of the 17th of September, reaching the western part of the South Peloponnese, they are having a force northwest wind that pushed the ship about 40 nautical miles on the south of Cape Matapan. There, the captain decided that the ship was in danger, and with the navigator, they decided to go back to Kythera to repair the problems that they had already the ship, and try and wait there for the storm to pass. They arrived at Kythera at the 17th of September, about at 2 o'clock of the afternoon. They arrived, of course, at one of the major harbors, natural harbors of Kythera, the Bay of Avlemona, and there they tried to throw 2 anchors for anchorage the ship in front of the small harbor of Avlemonas. Unfortunately, the 2 anchors didn't catch the bottom of the sea, and the ship struck strongly to the very pointed and very rough rocks in that area and sunk almost immediately. All passengers and crew have jumped to the rocks and have been saved. The ship lies in 22 meters of depth, and probably in that moment they could see the upper part of the mast of the ship passing through the surface of the sea. The passengers and the crew have been helped by a ship an Austrian ship that it was already anchored at the Bay of Avlemonas, and the vice-consul of Kythera, Emanuel Gallucci, already gave passports and papers and new papers to all passengers, so they will be able to leave Kythera and to go to continue their travel to the Western Europe. The only person that it was staying at Kythera under the orders of Lord Elgin was William Hamilton. He immediately received the order from Lord Elgin to recover the antiquities and the cargo of the Mentor. So the first thing that Hamilton done was that he made a drawing of the area where the Mentor have sunk. He noticed the area, the San Nicolas Bay, the harbor of Avlemonas, and of course Kythera, and the date 1802. the Dragonera Islands, where we have seen already the 4th century BC shipwreck, the place where Mentor was lying, the area where they have started to throw the 2 anchors and the loss of the 2 anchors, the small Avlemonas Venetian castle, and also the depth that it was, 12 to 13 fathoms. And he signed this drawing as William Hamilton. Probably Hamilton went up to the small mountain of Agios Georgios στο βουνό, as is called it, over the Avlemonas village, from where this photograph is coming from, and from there he made this drawing. I'm making a parenthesis that in this mountain of Agios Georgios στο βουνό, in the early 19th, Professor Sakelarakis made a very important excavation of an Minoan sanctuary, that it was really one of the first Minoan sanctuaries that we know outside Crete. And also it's not so far away from the area where Huxley, some years after, made the excavation of the Castri town, the Minoan settlement. So some days after the wreck, Lord Elgin sent a letter to Emanuel Calucci, explain him why he wants to recover this the cargo of the ship, where he's explaining the reason why he wants to recover by the famous phrase that she had on board a quantity of boxes with stones of no value of themselves, but of great consequence for me to rescue. And that was exactly the reason that Lord Elgin have said to Emanuel Calucci for the recovering, for the salvage of the cargo of the Mentor. So he ordered Hamilton to recover the cargo of the ship. And first of all, they made an unsuccessful attempt to recover the ship. So afterwards, William Hamilton started to think that probably the only way to recover the cargo was to recover it with sponge divers. So he paid sponge divers for Simeon Kalymnon to start to recovering the cargo of the ship. 1 year after, some months, let's say after, in 1803, Lord Elgin visited Kythera on his way to Constantinople. And 2 years after, Lusieris, another person who is well known in the team of Lord Elgin, informed Lord Elgin that everything has been recovered, and so they can organize the return of the antiquities to England. And some months later, and after a demand of Lord Elgin to Admiral Nelson to send also a frigate to follow the cargo ship that will transport the marvels, the antiquities from Kythera to Malta and then to the way to London. So after these events, the site of Mentor was very well known to everybody. Everybody knew what it was there, and everybody knew the story about the Mentor. And always, all the visits that there happened after the first salvage was having with rumors that there are still marbles, there are still antiquities on the site of the Mentor. So we have in 1976 Commandant Cousteau, during his research around the Aegean, that he's going there and he was investigating for a few days the Mentor shipwreck. In the early 80s, the Hellenic Institute of Marine Archaeology made a small research during 10 days at the site of the Mentor. And also this 4 years after, the Eforεία of Underwater Antiquities also made a small research. It's only in 2011 that started, under my direction, the Hellenic Ministry of Culture, under the Eforεία of Underwater Antiquities, the most, let's say, detailed research of the shipwreck. So what we have from this site? The first thing that is really notable is that it's still remaining about 25% of the hull of the ship. That means a part of the keel, as well as a part of the frames and the hull of the ship. All the rest of the ship have been probably destroyed during the first salvage, because we know very well that the sponge divers, they were obliged to destroy the ship, so they will be able to go inside the ship, attached with ropes the boxes, and then bring them up. So they were obliged to destroy, in fact, the ship, and only the part that it was covered by sand, it was really still remain. The barrel, the recent iron barrel that you can see in this image, is a recent intervention, let's say. It's a small caïque that during the Second World War have lost some barrels during his passage from the area. As you can see, in the remains of the hull, the frames, they are very close one to the other. Only the distance between them is only 2 or 3, maximum 5 centimeters. That is not the way that they were constructed, the ships, the trade ships in the Mediterranean. And that it was really something that make us think that we have to do with a ship that it's not really common for the Mediterranean region. That it was the way that they were constructing the ships in the America, exactly because they were ships that have to navigate in the Atlantic Sea. So they was thinking that the strong frame construction was really more secure for these ships than the way, or the Mediterranean way, where the frames, they're having more distance the one to the other. Here you can see the part of the keel that we have, is still remaining, the modern drum, as well as the frames and the secondary frames and the planking of the hull. And that is the part that we are thinking that is still remaining on the seabed. Here also there are some more details about the construction of the ship. We have recovered several parts of the frames and other parts of the ship, so we can easily make a 3D model of them. Here also is a part of the keel. It's covered by a kind of lead leaves around the keel, probably for protection. You can see it here with these nails, the huge nails that they were in fact consolidating the keel with the major frames. And here you can see how close the frames are the one to the other. Also, as we saw to the Lloyd's register, the ship was covered from the outside with copper, exactly as it was a similar brig founded at the Gulf of Mexico. Yet you can see this photograph from NOAA. We found at the Mentor quite a lot of pieces of this copper sheet, and also a lot of nails, smaller nails that have been used for planking, for nailing these sheets to the hull of the ship. So what we have as object, what we have is, first of all, the navigation object. We found hourglasses. We know very well that they were very useful for ships. We found a nautical divider, also the compass of the ship as a portable compass, and also quite a lot of wooden parts of the ship as pulleys, a lot of them, and cleats, ropes of different size and different diameters, as well as iron hooks, barrels, and other wooden items used for the rigging of the ship. Also, the ship was armed. We know very well from the register of the Lloyd's register that it was carrying between 6 and 12 guns. And also we found at least three pistols, flint pistols. We know very well that the Mediterranean in that period, in the early 19th century, was a very dangerous area to navigate. Pirates and the situation, the political situation was very unstable, with the Venetian, the British and the French and the Ottomans running around, as well as Russia. So even the trade ships were armed, not only with guns, also with pistol and portable arms. Here you can see how a flint pistol have been found, and exactly the X-ray. And afterwards, the restoration. Also, we didn't find any cannon, because probably they have been raised up during the first salvage, because they were quite easy to find, as it was, they were on the deck of the ship. But we found the cannonballs, as well as these strange objects that they call bar shots, that there was also used for cannons, for shooting and destroying the mast and the rigging of the ships. We found quite a lot of modern coins, as these golden Dutch ducats, that there was probably the most common golden coins used in Europe, as well as the Spanish and gold and silver coins. But of course, there was having some coins, Ottoman coins, that as they were coming back from Piraeus and Smyrna and Constantinople, they was under the Ottoman occupation. Also, we have quite a lot of personal objects, as earrings, rings, silver and gold. We have small flasks, pipes, toothbrushes, chess bow, as well as instruments, musical instruments. Parts of clothing, leather shoes, buttons. Some of these, they are related to clothes and uniforms that they were using the passenger, probably. As you can see, there are some buttons with cannon on them. And as I told you, William Leake was an officer of the artillery, so probably they were used in uniforms used by Leake. Different ware, glasses, bottles, and spoons. Of course, wine bottles. Other personal objects, as these watches, these portable watches, that they're really very fan made. And in this one, that is a watch made at Grenoble in France, we found the only piece of paper that we found. It was inside this watch, where you can see some information. We don't know exactly what they are about, with numbers separated in some squares, but it was inside this watch. Also, we have some objects that probably we can identify to whom they were belonged to. As, for example, this theodolite, that it was reconstructed by different part of the whole instrument, that they have been found in different excavating periods. We know very well that William Leake, he was on board on the MENΤΩР, and he was a topographer. We know very well that he was doing the plans of almost quite a lot of sites around Greece, and probably he was using this instrument for making his drawings. And we have also the base of this instrument. It's really amazing to see how objects, part of this object that have been found in different periods, they can really make the whole, give us the whole idea of the whole instrument. Also a glass seal that we found that is depicted a cannon on it, that probably was the seal of William Leake. As we know, he was a captain, a lieutenant of the artillery, as well as topographic divider, the part of a topographic divider that probably belongs to him. Also a portable ink pot, that it could be easily belonging to William Hamilton or also to William Leake. So what is about the cargo of the ship? Well, unfortunately, I cannot show you any images of the marble of Parthenon or sculpture from other monuments of the Acropolis, but we still found some ancient object on the site of the ΜΕΝΤΩΡ. So we found ancient coins, about 25 of them. I'm showing you here three, the most, let's say, the most easily to recognize as this Attic tetradrachma of the 5th century, this drachma of Alexander the Great of the end of the 4th century, and this Theban starter of the, Also some other ancient coins coming from different places, and also a Roman coin. We have found at least 5 Rhodian transport amphora stamps, where some of them, they were very well preserved, as this one that you can see on the left of the side where easily can read Epi Pausania Panamu. We have the name of the eponymous archon of Rhodes and the month of Panamos. Also, the only ceramic part that we found, sherd that we found, is this small sherd of probably a skiphos, a decorated skiphos from the 4th century BC, with this decoration of probably leaves. Also, we have a marble eye, decorative eye, as well as a small intact object from marble that really it's very difficult to identify what it could be. Also, we have two others objects that are very strange. Two Egyptian parts of Egyptian antiquities. One is the fragment of a pharaonic statue of the New Empire, probably for the period of Amenophis III. That is the belly, you can see easily the belly and the sword, and wearing the very well known cloth of the Egyptian pharaoh. And the second one is a most recent part of a fragment of a inscription, probably depicting the god Ra of the end of the Ptolemaic period, and he's holding the famous symbol, the Ankh, the key of life, and the scepter of Was, and in the back of this ancient god of Ra, normally there is an inscription, something like full of life, like Re. It was quite interesting, is a collection of fossils. Fossils that they were probably coming from the area of Lebanon. We don't have these type of fossils here in Greece, and there were 9 of them, at least 9 of them, that they were recovered from the site. So they were the antiquities, the major antiquities that we found, that probably they were belonging to some of these of the passenger, because these antiquities they were so valuable for Lord Eliot, and probably all these persons that were around this group of Lord Eliot, they were having their proper collections for small importance objects. And we know very well that William Leake was a huge collection, and at the Fitzwilliam Museum you can see the similar Rhodian amphora stamps that they have been given to the collection of the museum by William Leake, as same as what we found at the Mentor shipwreck. Also, we know that William Hamilton was having a collection of antiquities at his home, and probably other collection as these fossils, they were belonging to him. We can imagine that all these strange animals that they were found in these fossils were really making a lot of discussions, as we are some decades before the Darwin's theory about the evolution of the humankind. So all these bizarre animals, they were really very, very interesting for them. At the excavation of Mendor, we don't have only the archaeological excavation. We are trying to involve to this excavation the marine biologists to see how a disturbing excavation damaged or changed the seafloor and the seabed. So they are participating, especially the 4 or 5 last years, colleagues, marine biologists, that they are looking how the change of the area, the small area of the excavation can affect the environment, the marine environment around the shipwreck. Also, by closing this presentation, I have to say thank you, because if you see me, there are a lot of colleagues, friends, scientists that are working with us. I'm not the only person. You know very well that an excavation is not one-man show. We know we need the help, the knowledge of other scientists. So I have to thank them, all of them, for their help, for their participation. And I give you all their names. And also I have to thank the Ministry of Culture and Sport that give us the possibility to continue all these years, this excavation, as well as our sponsors, that a lot of them, they're coming from Australia. You know very well that Kythera has a huge community of Australians, that they are very attached to their island. They love Kythera, and it's very curious to see every summer that they are coming back to Kythera for their vacations, and they are coming there, and they support with all their efforts whatever is done at Kythera. So I have to thank them all, the Κυθήριων, the inhabitants of Avlemonas, that they are supporting us all these years, as well as my colleagues. And I'm thanking you for passing all this time listening to me with my worse English. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dimitri, for this well-illustrated, very informative, excellent in all respects talk. We really appreciate the fact that you are sharing all these exciting discoveries with us and our attendees today. And I am very pleased that in addition to the archaeology, you also have environmental concerns. And I'm pretty sure we have friends from the Vatica region, and in particular the Association Tulipa Gulimi, who are participating today. And they're very much concerned about the marine environment in Vatica and Kythera. So I think you've made a lot of people happy tonight. So thank you very much. Are you happy to respond to questions?
Yes, of course.
Okay, good. So our friends who are attending can post their questions either in the chat, which is the little button with the bubble, or if they want to ask the question directly, just raise your hand and I'll unmute you. I'm not sure if Petros or Bill have questions to ask before we go into the Q&A. Petros, you're muted.
I'm muted, yes. Just a very brief one. First of all, congratulations. Excellent presentation and very, very thorough presentation. Now, you mentioned that there was a frigate escort. So it was not just a private sector operation. It was somehow sanctioned by the government and providing an escort to the whole operation. So it was a fully government, UK government sanction. It wasn't just people buying in the free market whatever was stolen at the time.
When they recovered the salvage of the MENΤΩР cargo have been finished in 1804, the Lord Elgin asked Admiral Nelson to send a frigate to Kythera because they had already some pirate attack during the salvage. Probably that was one of the reasons. And that's why Admiral Nelson sent the frigate to Kythera to accompany the cargo ship that it was charging the antiquities from the Kythera island. You know, Lord Elgin was an official person. He was ambassador of the crown at Constantinople. So he was a public person. He was ambassador. So he was in his right to ask for his what he considered his properties, to ask the official protection of the British government.
And are any of the findings, sorry, and now in private collections, or are they found in the market as well, or?
No, they are all the. I don't think there is any object that become from the mentor shipwreck that it in private collection. All the objects that we are finding, they are belonging to the Greek state, of course. They are belonging to the Ministry of Culture and to the Greek state, and also all the other objects that were all given to the Fitzwilliam Museum by William Leake and I think Hamilton, and also to the British Museum.
Good. Thank you, Santi.
Thank you. Bill, do you have a question or?
I think there are so many other people waiting to,
Yes.
but I would like to add my congratulations. It was a fascinating talk. I really enjoyed it very greatly, and it gave a wonderful insight into the research and into the period. And I love the way you brought it all together. So many congratulations. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much.
So a lot of the comments in the chat are congratulating you for a brilliant overview and an outstanding presentation. We have received questions and people can continue posting their questions. So we have a question from Dr. Andy Suter, who's asking, given the size and weight of the Parthenon marbles, for example, metopes and sculptured figures, is there any record detailing how they were salvaged from the sea? For example, the type of equipment that was used and the challenges encountered?
Yes, you know, as the Venetian, British, they are very, very conscious by keeping diaries. So we know exactly what it was happened by the diaries kept by William Hamilton. We know very well all the problems that he had with the sponge divers. The sponge divers in this period were diving only with their breath in apnea. It was very difficult to salvage, even if the 22 meters, we consider 22 meters not a very deep depth to go, but it's still, at the moment that you don't have a mask, it's impossible to see, as everybody knows, into the sea. So the first thing is that they were having oil in their mouth, and during their descent, there was throwing out of the mouth small drops of oil that they were creating a kind of mirror in the water, so they can, for a few seconds, they can eventually see the seabed, and there they could see exactly what where they want to go. The second one is that, yes, it was a very difficult operation, and that's why, as I told you, the major part of the hull have been distracted during the salvage, because the sponge diver, the only thing that they were doing is they were having a rope with them. They went down, they were attaching with the rope a box, and they were getting up. and afterwards they were using pulleys to bring up the box from the surface. That means that the box, when he went out from the ship, it was really destroying everything. So that's why that's the reason why the shipwreck was completely dislocated, opening like that, because exactly the salvage was a really distraction. It was a distraction way of doing it. But it's really very amusing to see how difficult it was to accede to this shipwreck. The sponge divers were passing 3 or 4 months before starting to salvage object by cleaning the area from ropes, sails, and all the other floating things that were around this ship, because they were very dangerous. They were very dangerous for them. So they passed a lot of time before cleaning the area of the shipwreck, and afterwards starting to go inside to try to recover the cargo.
Excellent. Very interesting. Dr. George Vardas is asking, has there been any consideration given to displaying some of the finds at the Acropolis Museum as part of a display on the Mentor shipwreck?
That is a question, well, if you ask me personally, I will be glad to do so. But that is a consideration of the Ministry of Culture in general. An exhibition of it's a question of preparation, it's a question of a lot of things, and it must be having several permits for doing that. And so there is, it's not very easy to do it, and it's a question of politics. I cannot answer. I will be pleasured for doing so. We have quite a lot of objects that are already restored at the labs of the Eforεία. So we have enough to make an exhibition, at least a temporary one.
That would be an excellent exhibition. Professor Loven is asking, could the Egyptian finds belong to Leek, since he returned from there to Athens, Piraeus, in June 1802?
Yes, eventually, yes. We have another solution. We know very well that all the cargo ships that they were trading with Alexandria, especially in Alexandria, during that period and at the end of the Middle Ages, that they were charging as ballast statues that they have been bought from the Egyptian. And we know that because in Venice, where we have a lot of archives, this sort of archives, we know very well that captains, they were offering Egyptian statues or objects that they were coming from Alexandria to some official at the Egyptian, at the Venetian government. So that is something that it was very often, but probably it could be at one of the Leek's collection. We are not sure. We don't have any mention about what the Mentor was carrying of personal object. We know that he was. It was charged in the cargo was a box with drawings of Lusieri. Probably very nice, very nice drawings of Lusieri, of antiquities from Athens and other places. But of course, that have been lost completely, probably the first months after the shipwreck.
Thank you. So this actually comes. I have another question by Dr. David Himbler. Do you know if there was an inventory of the sculpture from before the wreck? And if so, was it used in reconciling what was recovered against what was known to have been in the hold?
Yes, we don't know exactly what it was in charge. The cargo that it was charged in the *MENΤΩΡ*, we only know that it was a box with marble parts from the Parthenon. That is, or marble metopes from Parthenon, or marble parts or a sculpture from the temple of Nike. That it was all. We don't know exactly from which of them they were on the *MENΤΩΡ*. For having this information, probably we will have to do some examinations in the marbles that they are exposed at the British Museum. And probably, seawater organisms, they are still remaining inside this the marble, because the marble is very soft. It's a very soft stone, so it's very easily attacked by all these worms and all these marine organisms. So, but I'm not sure that the British Museum trustees will give us a permit to do that. What do you think?
Well, who knows? There's always hope. I don't see any other questions, so if you don't mind, I'd like to ask one. What are the plans, like after you have finished the excavation? What are the plans about the wreck?
Well, that is a huge question. That is a question that I think gives a lot of worries to all archaeologists. What is going to happen afterwards when we are leaving the site? Well, I have to say two things. The first is that I consider that we mustn't recover objects or part of the ships at the moment that we are not sure that we can restore them properly. They are very well preserved where they are, so even if we are doing excavation, afterwards we are covering everything with cloth to protect them. And I'm sure that the fishermen of the Avlemonas village, they are protecting very well the site. They know exactly where it is. They can see us every day when we are working there. And so they're protecting by themselves the site as it is. Well, afterwards, what we can do with the site? Well, it depends. You know very well that in this period we have a huge question about the diving tourism here in Greece, as it is considered as one of the most promoting and most interesting part of modern part of tourism. And a lot of sites, underwater archaeological sites, they are started to be visitable by divers. So I don't know exactly what we have to do. I think that my first concern is to protect the site, to be sure that the site, even at the moment that we are finishing the excavation, to protect it and to keep it for the next generation. Afterwards, what we can eventually do, it's a discussion. We have to consider that. We have to take it step by step. It's not easy. We were talking before with Chrysanthi, with how difficult it is to do all that, to make all this mechanism work of the visiting a site. It's not so easy. It's not just we are opening as we are opening a boutique or something like that. It's a question of scientists. We are scientists. We have to progress step by step, and that takes time. And we have to have the time, even if we are getting older.
Well, no, this is brilliant, and it's no doubt you are leaving a huge cultural heritage, both to the island of Kythira, but also to Greece, especially because this is such a historical wreck. So we appreciate all your efforts, both yours and your colleagues in the Eforεία of Underwater Antiquities, because we know how difficult your job is. So thank you very much. Before we close, I'd like also to add to the discussion a comment that Professor Loven has posted, that it's so sad to consider that Leaks Athens, and more important, because of his own research, Piraeus survey was lost on the Mentor. So
exactly, and also, but it's still very. I always remember. I was giving a lecture at the Acropolis Museum, and there it was Professor Manolis Kores, who is probably the major person that knows the Acropolis. And when I saw this the theodolite probably of Leek, he was staying like that with opened his eyes, and he told me, really, I'm used to see the object that probably have made all this drawing of the Acropolis and of the other monuments of Athens. And also, as Bjorn said, of course, of Zea and of the Piraeus, that it's another huge work.
Yeah. He adds that the theodolite is holy as well. And I agree. So it remains to thank you, Dimitri, very much for this fascinating talk. And I will pass over to Mayor Doukas for his comments, and then to Bill, and then I will close I'll make the closing remarks. So, Petros?
Thank you.
Indeed, unique and fascinating. Maybe at some point a small museum in Avlemonas town with some of the things that don't need to stay under water and can be preserved in a museum situation. That's one idea for you to discuss. But many thanks, congratulations. It was a very thorough discussion. We're very proud to have you at the Sparta Live series, even though it didn't have to do completely with Sparta. We inspired Athens anyhow to do all these great works to compete with Sparta. So again, thank you very much. And to Chrysanthi and Professor Kavanagh, the city of Sparta is grateful to all for what you have been doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And can I just add my thanks to a wonderful lecture, and it was so fascinating. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
So,
Professor. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you again, and congratulations, Dimitri, for the fascinating work. On behalf of the Center, I would like to warmly thank Mayor Doukas and the city of Sparta for their unfailing support and collaboration, the University of Nottingham and the marketing team of the School of Humanities for their continuous support, and Mr. Petros Kapernarakos and the Vachos Radio News for media sponsorship. Above all, I would like to thank all of you who have attended today's talk, either on Teams or on the live stream. And we very much hope that you will be joining us again next week. That is Thursday, the 1st of December. Again, 5 o'clock UK time, 7 o'clock Greek time. We will be hosting the historian and award-winning novelist Dr. Helena Schrader to discuss her novels set in ancient Sparta, and she will be joining us from the island of Kythira. The event will be led by our colleague Dr. Lynn Fotheringham, and will take the form of an interview. Time permitting, Dr. Schrader will read excerpts from one or more of her Sparta novels. So before we close, shall I remind everyone that if you are not yet a member of our center and you wish to join us, it's free. And as you can see, it's also fun. Do email us at csps@nottingham.ac.uk. So have a very nice evening and see you all next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
secret.